Let's talk about one of boxing's biggest names, Anthony Joshua. Right now, he's caught in this huge storm of confusion, and it all comes after a devastating personal tragedy that has left the entire sports world asking one simple question: what on earth is next for the former heavyweight king? So, this whole thing really blew up with a bombshell claim. After a fatal car accident in Nigeria, a man who says he's Joshua's uncle told a newspaper that the fighter was calling it quits. Basically saying the family was relieved, that the trauma of watching him get in that ring it was too much for them to bear. But then, almost right away, we get a totally different story. Sources close to AJ's camp pushed back, and they pushed back hard, telling major outlets that, hey, this uncle does not speak for Anthony and that the fighter has no plans of retiring, and just like that, you've got a media frenzy. Okay, so you've got two completely opposite stories, right? And the man himself, the superstar at the center of it all, is totally silent. So to figure out what's really at stake here, we've got to unpack everything: his career, the tragedy itself, and all the complicated stuff that's shaping whatever he decides to do next. All right, so you might be thinking, why is this such a big deal? To get the weight of a potential retirement, you have to get this. Anthony Joshua wasn't just a champion, he was an absolute phenomenon. And this timeline, wow, it just shows you how fast he shot up. From Olympic glory right there in London to unifying heavyweight titles, his rise was just meteoric. And that 2017 win over Vladimir Klitschko in front of 90,000 people at Wembley, that wasn't just a boxing match. No way. That was a massive cultural event. It turned him into a global icon, literally overnight. I mean, look at his impact. He single-handedly brought boxing's star power back to the UK. He became this pay-per-view giant, a name that everyone knew, even if you didn't follow the sport. For years, he was the face of heavyweight boxing. But here's the thing. Even before this terrible tragedy, the story around him was, well, it was already starting to change. Professionally, he was at a crossroads, and people were starting to ask some tough questions about whether he was still the king of the division. Just look at this number, 4. That one number kind of says it all, doesn't it? In his last 10 fights, Joshua's lost 4 times. I mean, think about it. This is a guy who started his career with 20 straight knockouts. So 4 losses in his last 10, yeah, that's a huge, challenging shift. And these are the losses that really tell the story of this recent chapter. It all kicked off with that jaw-dropping upset to Andy Ruiz Jr. in New York. Nobody saw that coming. Then he ran into the buzzsaw that is Alexander Usyk twice. Usyk he completely outschooled him. And then most recently, a tough loss to his rival Daniel Dubois. These weren't just L's on his record. These were fights that chipped away, piece by piece, at that aura of invincibility he once had. Okay, so let's get to the heart of what sparked this whole firestorm. It all comes down to a personal tragedy in Nigeria, just 10 days after his last fight. This is what kicked off all the retirement talk we're seeing now. And the details, they're just heartbreaking. Joshua was in a terrible crash when the SUV he was in hit a parked truck, and the outcome was just tragic. 2 of his closest friends and longtime team members, Latif Ayodele and Sina Gahami, were killed. And the story is that Joshua himself only survived with minor injuries because he'd reportedly switched from the front seat to the back right before they left. Just unbelievable. And this is where we get back to that central conflict, that tug of war. On one side, you have a family member saying he's done, it's a done deal, because of all the emotional stress. On the other, a really quick and firm denial from AJ's inner circle, and that just leaves this huge question mark hanging in the air. So what about the man himself? Well, he hasn't said a single word about boxing. The only thing he's posted publicly is this photo, showing him with the families of his friends who passed. So, and this is really important, his career is on pause because he's grieving. It's not officially over because he's made a decision. There's a big difference. So what's really going into this decision, whether he fights on or hangs up the gloves? It's not just an emotional call. We're talking about his legacy, about unfinished business, and let's be real, a financial situation that most athletes can only dream of. First things first, let's talk about the money. I mean, just look at this number. A net worth of over $200 million, thanks to fight purses and a huge property portfolio. So let's be crystal clear. Anthony Joshua never has to fight another day in his life for money. He is set for life. Okay, now check out this number. An estimated $75 million. That was his biggest payday ever. And it came from the second Usyk fight. a fight he lost. Let that sink in. This tells you everything you need to know about how the money works in big-time boxing today. See, here's the key takeaway. At the very top, boxing has become all about the event, not the outcome. Guys like AJ get paid just to show up because they are the show. They sell the tickets, they sell the pay-per-views. So losing a fight, it's not the financial disaster it used to be. Not even close. And that changes everything. It means careers can go on longer, and how you pick your opponents, well, that gets a lot more complicated. So if money's off the table, what's left? Legacy. That's what's left. The big question is, has he already done enough to be called an all-time great? Is he a lock for the Hall of Fame? Believe me, people are arguing about this constantly. Okay, so you've got two sides to this. On the for side, you have his promoter, Eddie Hearn. He'll tell you, look, he was a two-time unified champ, he beat a legend in Klitschko, he beat other champs like Parker. But on the against side, you've got analysts like Carl Froch, and they point straight to the holes in his resume. Those big losses, and even bigger, the fact that he never got in the ring with his biggest rivals, Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. And that really is the ghost that hangs over his legacy, isn't it? That massive, all-British showdown with Tyson Fury. It's the fight everyone wanted to see for years, it's the biggest what-if in modern heavyweight boxing, and it's a huge shadow on his career story. But at the end of the day, all of this talk, all the debate about his money, his legacy, it's all just noise right now. The decision comes down to one man and one man only. And right now, he's completely focused on dealing with an unimaginable personal loss, a world away from the boxing ring. And that really leaves us with a fascinating final question to think about. For a modern athlete, when you have more money than you could ever spend, and your legacy is pretty much set, even if people argue about it, what actually marks the end? Is it a tough loss in the ring? A personal tragedy outside of it? Or is it just the quiet, personal choice to say, you know what, I'm done? For an athlete like Anthony Joshua, in this day and age, that answer is more complicated than it's ever been.